Yeah, so it's an aspirational sort of yogic song that it talks about the six realms, like all these beings that are in hell or living as animals or whatever, and makes an individual aspiration to each of them for their well-being, specifically in the Ati Yoga context, where it wishes for them to realize their true nature and fully awaken. So this is the part that I like about Dzogchen and the Dzogchen context is because you're not wishing them for good luck within samsara. You're wishing them to wake up out of samsara, right? Or at least this aspirational song is like that. And so it goes through the five wisdoms and the six realms and all this stuff. And we read the root text yesterday. And now we're getting into Dzogchen Ponlop Rinpoche's commentary on this. And if anybody, I know sometimes the language can be heavy, but this particular text is catering towards the Western audience, so it should be a little bit easier. But if you have some pressing questions or something like that, maybe find a good time to shoot a comment through, and Yeshe can pause and or maybe at the end of the chapter or something like that we can have discussion. But don't be afraid to ask questions and get the view right. So it should be an interesting text. It's been a while for me, and let's see how it goes.
So we are reading from Penetrating Wisdom, the Aspiration of Samantabhadra. Aspiration Prayer. The Aspiration Prayer of Samantabhadra belongs to the Dzogchen tradition of Vajrayana Buddhism. It comes from the primordial Buddha Samantabhadra, known in Tibetan as Kuntu Zangpo. Fundamentally speaking, this prayer is the aspiration of the Dharmakaya Buddha Samantabhadra. In addition to being the prayer of a primordial Buddha, it is a prayer of the path to complete awakening according to the Dzogchen tradition, as well as a prayer of instructions that make our path more genuine and correct. It is a prayer that expresses the different manifestations of Rigpa, which is our basic awareness in ordinary life. Further, it is a prayer, an aspiration for the realization of Rigpa, the realization of the genuine path, and the realization of the genuine teacher. It is said that many Dzogchen Tantras descended from space onto the rooftop of the king's palace in Udayana. Later on, these Tantras were taught by the Sambhogakaya Buddha Vajrasattva to the great human master of Dzogchen, Garabdoje. From Garabdoje, it came to Manjushri Mitra and Sri Simha. From them, it came to Padma Sambhava and so on. I received the transmission of this text from His Holiness Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, and a transmission of this Tantra from Tulku Jürgen Rinpoche. Briefly speaking, that's our lineage. This presentation is based on the commentary by the 15th Gyalwan Karmapa Kakyap Doje, and that way the presentation becomes more authentic. As this is very much a Vajrayana prayer, it is necessary that we have a genuine ground for making such an aspiration. My teacher gave me very important instructions concerning this ground. He said it is faith, faith without any questions. It is devotion and trust in the inconceivable truth. That is the ground of Vajrayana practices such as this. Believe it or not, faith is the basic requirement for us to enter the path of Vajrayana. To enter the path of Dzogchen or Mahamudra, it is a sense of complete trust without much distraction. It is faith, trust, and confidence in the basic ground of inconceivable truth, in the reality beyond concept. Even if you don't have complete faith and trust, it is important to have some sense of openness to the possibility of a reality beyond concept, beyond ordinary perceptions. In our day-to-day life, we get totally enveloped in the reality that we experience through our low-tech sensory perceptions. We believe in our six sensory perceptions, which include concepts. We believe the highest degree of truth is something that we can see, something that we can hear, and something that we can feel. We take them as the ultimate authority. We reject everything that is beyond our ordinary perceptions. The biggest obstacle in the path of Tantra, in the paths of Vajrayana, Mahamudra and Dzogchen, is completely and utterly trusting these ordinary perceptions. The truth is out there and cannot be experienced by these low-tech perceptions. Our modern scientific culture has a very strong dogma of not believing in a reality beyond our perceptions and concepts. But even from the modern scientific point of view, our sensory faculties are quite low-tech. We see the coarse elements of existence with these faculties, but when we look at them through the scientific technology of a microscope and so forth, we don't find the same reality. In modern physics, it is seen as some kind of energy field, like a quark. Our sense faculties are not able to experience that level of subtlety, let alone inconceivable reality. We usually rule out the possibility of inconceivable reality. We rule it out because we cannot perceive it with our samsaric sense organs. We say, because I can't perceive it, I can't believe in it. If something doesn't fit the logic of samsaric confusion, the logic of the self-centered view of egocentricity, then we rule it out. We can't conceive of the inconceivable truth with our samsaric thoughts. These are very strong obstacles to our understanding Vajrayana. Not everything we learn on the Vajrayana path is necessarily completely conceivable or completely perceivable. In order to understand Vajrayana, we need to have some faith in the inconceivable truth. Even if we cannot have 100% faith and confidence, just leaving some space for the possibility is a good start. Therefore, the first important quality on the path of Vajrayana is the quality of faith. We need a sense of openness, at least, to the possibility of non-conceptual reality or inconceivable truth. This faith, which is the enlightening thought of the possibility of the inconceivable truth, is the basic ground to have a flash of awareness. Usually, people think only of faith in the deity or faith in the Lama, but that is not the basic meaning of faith here. The basic meaning here begins with faith in the inconceivable truth. In Vajrayana, that is the fundamental faith. Therefore, I think it is important to share this very helpful advice and instruction that I received from my Vajra master. It is very important to share it with all of you interested in the Vajrayana journey. This faith in Vajrayana is not like the conventional sense of confidence. Conventionally, you can apply some logic from a conceptual thought frame. But samsaric logic has no value in Vajrayana faith. So long as you remain in that samsaric logic, the Vajra path does not become very stable. So long as samsaric logic is still the ground for our faith, our Vajra path is not particularly established. Therefore, it can be difficult. It can be tricky. That is the very challenging beginning of a Vajrayana journey. I think Westerners like challenges, so here we have a great opportunity.
Let me just chime in here. Can you hear me? Yeah, I've found that there's a very effective way to approach this type of faith. Of course, open-hearted faith is great because it comes with that trust, and you don't have to go through a lot of your own work when you just trust something. But we're talking about a sort of proving here. That's what there's a lot of dharma that's already been proven to you, and you can have faith in the next sort of stage or whatever you want to call it. You can have faith in that based on the other stuff being true. That's how the Kalama Sutta explains it as well. You know, not to have faith in anything until you test it, and then run that by wise people, sort of validate what you saw there. But it can be like that, step by step, hinging on the faith of your past verification and proof. You know, I think as sort of mind scientists and yogis, we have to. That's how our faith has to be, because it's so strong. Then it's really sort of indestructible. So, any other comments? Anything on faith? As you can see, he's catering to the West. I guess Tank has some comments. Tank, you have some comments? Tank said faith is very important. If you want bonies, you have to have faith. Okay. But like I mentioned, Dzogchen Ponlop Rinpoche is I think he's skilled at catering to the Western audience and presenting it in an accessible way. So I'm getting a good vibe and a remembrance from this text when I read the book a while ago. So I hope you're enjoying it too. And if you have any comments or questions, don't be shy. Otherwise, Yeshe, do you want to read some more? All right.
Vajramaster. When I talk about the Vajrayana Guru, I usually say it is like the movie Judge Dredd, where he says, "I am the law." There is no trial, no jury. It is just straight to execution. In many cases, that is what the Vajrayana Guru says. I am not here to discourage you, but I have to speak the truth. It is a pretty claustrophobic situation that is extremely dangerous and scary. The Vajrayana master plays a very important role in terms of developing this sense of faith. That is because Vajrayana faith begins with our trust, confidence and faith in the teacher who is our guide on the spiritual path and in the lineage that holds the wisdom of such path. It is trust and faith in the fruition of the path, as well as in the teachings that lead us to the fruition of enlightenment. In other words, it is having the sense of positive mind that says, there have been many lineage masters in the past. There are many lineage masters living at present. Yes, this leads to fruition. Faith in the inconceivable truth begins with our faith in the lineage, with our faith in the Vajrayana path, and with our faith in the Vajra masters. The reason we rely on the Vajra master is that we have already tried many different methods to wake ourselves up, but none of them really worked. We set our alarm clock for the next morning, and then, in the morning, it beeps with a very unconfident beep. It beeps because we have ordered it to beep, but its beep is very feeble. It has a very weak quality because it knows that it doesn't have the full power to wake us up. When this feeble beep happens, our great samsaric commands us to move a hand with tremendous habitual power and press the snooze button. Then we go back to our comfortable samsaric sleep. We go back again to the dreams and nightmares to which we are attached. 15 minutes later, the alarm clock beeps again. Again we press the snooze button. We don't have this faith, this confidence in the inconceivable truth that can wake us up. This goes on for ages, maybe kalpas after kalpas. That's why the Hinayana and Mahayana journey takes so long. There is a logic in the ordinary kind of waking up process. When you set up the alarm, you choose when it will beep and how loud it will beep. At the same time, you have the choice not to wake up. It is very logical. The Hinayana and Mahayana journeys can be very logical. They may work more closely with the samsaric mind and gradually take you step by step beyond samsaric logic. But Vajrayana goes beyond logic. This is a very important point. Vajrayana is like asking someone to wake you up in the morning. You are not relying on an alarm clock. You are relying on this person, the Vajra master, to wake you up. You really need great faith in this person and great faith in his method of waking you up, because there is no logic. You don't know how he or she is going to wake you up, that's for sure. You need a great sense of openness, because you must hand him the key to your apartment. Otherwise, there is no way that he can enter your space to wake you up from your samsaric confusion. The process of handing over the key is what we call devotion, what we call openness. The trust and faith that we are talking about here is like handing over your key. After that, it is totally up to the Vajra master as to the methods he or she will use to wake us up. It will definitely not be an alarm clock. The most civilized method that a Vajra master might use to wake us up would be a bucket of ice-cold water. After you get that kind of wake-up call, you won't have any second thoughts of going back to sleep, because your samsaric bed is no longer warm and snug. It is a horrible wet bed with a wet blanket. All you can think of is to get up, just simply to wake up. There is really no other option left. You can see from this analogy that the Vajrayana method is very strong. It is very striking, very awakening. At the same time, it may not be a very pleasant or comfortable method for our ego. Therefore, it requires tremendous faith in the Vajra master and in the Vajra lineage. That faith is the key to our awakening. I am emphasizing this because it seems that there is no result produced through any path or any practice without this faith. For that reason, the lineage principle is very much emphasized in the Dzogchen tradition. When you have faith at the beginning, it may be conceptual or theoretical to a certain degree. If you one-pointedly concentrate on devotion, on trust and on faith, it goes beyond concepts. Then you one-pointedly meditate, and it becomes a non-conceptual experience. Once you concentrate one-pointedly, it will become a naked experience. There is a story about a teacher called Gendun Chopal. He was a great Tibetan teacher in the 20th century. At a certain point, he was acting a bit crazy. One of his students offered him chang, which is Tibetan beer. He was drinking, and they were discussing Dharma. The student was one-pointed in his devotion and trust. He was one-pointedly concentrating on each and every word of his teacher, no matter what he was saying. At a certain point, the student felt a little bit drunk. He wasn't drinking at all, but he felt a little bit drunk. He also smelled alcohol in his own breath. Then he sort of came back to his conceptual world, and of course, nothing was there. When he explains this story in his biography of Gendun Chopal, the student says that he felt for a moment that he was in a state of his guru's mind, like merging as one. He even had the outer signs of feeling a little bit drunk and smelling alcohol in his breath. But the main thing he felt was actually the mind of the guru, which, of course, you can't speak or write about in any particular way except to describe the outer signs, symbols, and feelings that he had. This story shows that by one-pointedly putting your faith in this person or in these teachings, there can be some kind of non-conceptual experience. In the Vajrayana journey, we call that merging your mind with the mind of the Guru. There's a sense of emerging through devotion and faith, which is definitely connected to confidence and trust. It is not just blind faith that we are talking about here. Devotion involves wisdom and knowledge. With that devotion and faith, we are willing to take this journey to the other side of the suffering, known as samsara, to the great bliss that is known as nirvana. It is the same as passengers who must rely on the ferryman or on the pilot for their journey. It is the same idea. It really requires tremendous trust. When you board a plane, you are completely putting your trust in the people in the cockpit. We usually don't think about that. We just walk onto the plane without much thinking. If you really think about it, you are putting tremendous trust and confidence in those few people in the cockpit. Your life is in their hands. For example, I myself don't know anything about how to fly the plane. It is beyond my concept to fly the plane, but I put my trust in the pilot. In a similar way, we are putting that same kind of trust in our Vajra master. We are putting that same trust in the Vajra lineage the Vajra boat, the Vajra plane, the Vajra rocket. And with that trust, that faith, we take the journey on the Vajrayana path.
Okay, I'm gonna chime in. This is really the traditional way where they combine Vajrayana with Dzogchen, but definitely in this group we approach it more standalone Dzogchen, which is sometimes controversial, or you know, you may even let's see here. How far did we make it? I didn't have the book. Oh, we made it. Yeah, I'm just looking at the book here as far as how far into. Okay, we're on the Guru Yoga part. Or do you have the question and answer portion? Well, for me it's 24, but you might have a different edition. It's at the end of the Guru Yoga that you just read about, I think. Yeah, I guess you hadn't reached that yet, right? I see. Okay. Well, that's not that long. Let's go ahead and read that chapter on, looks like Guru Yoga.
Guru-disciple relationship. The Guru-disciple relationship is a very critical issue on the Vajrayana path. We must not get into the Vajrayana path until we are certain about it. Once we get into it, we should not mess up too much. That's a very dangerous game to play. The best way to control our dangerous journey is to analyze your guru in the beginning as much as you can. Analyze, examine, and work with great diligence. Then come to a conclusion. It will not be that dangerous if your conclusion is based on a good analysis in the beginning. These are some tips to be aware of on the Vajrayana path. The method used to analyze the qualities of Vajra master has been described in the Vajrayana lineage teachings. Briefly, the first quality of a Vajra master is that he keeps his vows. This means that he keeps them pure, whether they are Hinayana, Mahayana, or Vajrayana precepts. The second is that he has received the full empowerment and transmission of the Vajrayana lineage from his master, who has the lineage. It is not like receiving it from a New Age guru. Rather, it is receiving the lineage from an authentic teacher who has that lineage. Third, A Vajra master is one who has kept the Samaya with his guru perfectly. In other words, one who has not broken his commitment with the guru. Finally, a Vajra master is one who has tremendous compassion, which means being non-aggressive and non-militant. These are the major qualifications. A Vajra master is also one who has experience in what he is teaching. He is not someone who just digs up lots of books in the library, puts some things together, and goes to the lecture with many note cards, which then become a teaching. It is not like that. Rather, he teaches from what he has received from his master, what he has practiced, and what he has realized, or at least experienced. That's what we call a good master. The basic Buddhist intellectual approach is a very good basis for analyzing the master, the path, and the practitioner. If we analyze with that balance of the intuitive mind and the intellectual mind, then there is no doubt that we will find the right path and the right teacher. But if we get carried away into an extreme by either one of them, then it becomes a really big problem. The proper way to follow the Vajrayana path is to first develop faith. Having developed faith, we can then jump into this path, into this journey. Therefore, as preparation for practicing the Vajrayana path, we must reflect on our own heart, our own basic practice, and our own basic understanding of Dharma. We must reflect on our understanding of the teacher, the teachings, and the path. Through this reflection, we can develop this confidence, this trust, and this faith. Sometimes we may misunderstand and say there is no space at all in the Vajrayana for any kind of doubt. That's not true. It is very dangerous to say that we must not have any doubts. Buddha said doubt is wisdom. He said that inquisitive mind is wisdom. We are more than welcome to have doubts and inquisitive mind about the path and practices. At the same time, we must not go so far with these doubts that we get caught up and carried away by them. It is very important for us to reflect on the nature of our path, as well as what we are doing on our path. Reflect on how it is a Vajrayana, Mahayana, or Hinayana path. Reflect on how we face obstacles in practice. It is especially important to reflect on the teacher-student relationship. It is important for us to reflect on what we expect from our teachers. Then we can see how much we project unnecessary things onto them. We can see how we fantasize about our teachers and make them look like a bronze statue, a carved African mask, or whatever. It's not true. Our masters in the past were all humans. Those living in the present are all humans. Shakyamuni Buddha was a human prince. He was an Indian guy, which we often forget. We think of him as a glowing golden statue, a beautifully carved wooden statue or a stone statue, but that's not true. That's not who he was. It's very important for us to see clearly that our teachers are human beings. They're all on the path to enlightenment. The historic Buddha is different. He's already enlightened, but the rest are all in the same boat. The only difference is that there may be different levels of realization. Some are on the 10th Bodhisattva Bhumi, some are on another of the bodhisattva bhumis. Some may be on an ordinary bhumi. We must see very clearly what we really expect from our teachers and what we really need. We must see what we expect in terms of guidance on the Hinayana path, guidance on the Mahayana path, or guidance on the Vajrayana path. We should reflect on that and then just be simple. We are looking for a path and for instruction on that path. That is what you get from most teachers, I hope. We should appreciate what we get. If we don't get enough or what we really need from our teachers, we should look for more. It is very important for us to reflect on these things and be grounded, so to speak. Then our path becomes more fruitful because everything is much simpler. It is more naked and honest. As we discussed, selective hearing of the teachings is one problem. Selective guru is another problem. We jump from one guru to another. Why? Because one guru may be getting a bit too strict, going a little against our ego, our pleasures, and our emotional interests. When that happens, we don't like that guru anymore, and we jump to another one. We try to find somebody who will tell us that what we want to do is correct, that it is Vajrayana. These problems of selective practice, selective hearing and selective guru become our major obstacles on the path. They are why we cannot perfect our path. We are stuck in this deep samsaric swamp of poverty mentality. We are stuck in dissatisfaction, which was our fundamental reason for joining the Dharma. We bring the same dissatisfaction onto our Dharma path and say, no, this teaching is not good enough, this Dharma is not good enough. Do you know the saying that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence? Another version is that the other lane is always moving faster. These things are not necessarily happening outside. It is human psychology. We call this dissatisfaction or poverty mentality. Buddha said that this is the basic suffering of human beings. We should not bring this outlook onto our Dharma path. It becomes a big obstacle to hearing and practicing Vajrayana Dharma. In Vajrayana Dharma, you cannot simply switch your guru overnight and still attain enlightenment in this lifetime. It is not possible. If you try it, Vajrayana becomes a very difficult path. I want to be honest. I want to discourage your fantasies and misconceptions of Vajrayana. I want to discourage the neurotic pattern that you bring onto the Vajrayana path, which is that same neurotic pattern of dissatisfaction, of poverty mentality. I'm not saying that you are the only one to bring this with you. We all do. When we are infected by a serious disease and we go to a genuine doctor, the doctor will tell us frankly, you have been infected by such and such disease. Of course, no one likes to hear that. It is very painful. The doctor may say, it is very difficult to cure. We certainly don't want to hear that. We would like the doctor to say, no, it is not a big problem. It is just a flu. I can cure this in 1 hour if you take such and such a pill. It is the same with gurus. If you go to a genuine teacher, it's very painful. It was very painful when my teacher told me, you have to do 100,000 prostrations. It was very painful, and obviously I didn't like it. I wished that I could get another teacher who would tell me, You just do one prostration and you will be enlightened. But that was not the case. If we go to some trippy false doctor, that doctor might say, "No problem, I'll cure you in 5 seconds." Maybe he will say that he can cure us in 1 hour or perhaps 3 months. We go through the whole treatment. We spend our money, our time, our energy, and we are still sick. Finally, we end up going back to the original genuine doctor. We end up going back to him because these false doctors cannot cure our disease. Sooner or later, we realize it's not working. It's just a fantasy. We have to go back to the painful fact that we have been infected. We have to go back to the painful fact that it is not easy to cure. We have to go back to the painful fact that we have to go through difficult treatments such as surgery. It is the same with the Dharma path. The fact is that we have been infected by the disease of egocentricity. When we go to a genuine path with a genuine master, it is not a simple and easy quick fix. That is the fact. We have to come back to reality. With faith and confidence, we have to be more focused on the lineage principle and follow the painful instructions of the Guru. That's the only way we can cure our disease of ego. Is that enough discouragement? I think so. Well, there is always Prozac, the drug that makes you happy. Question. It sounds like I just need to trust. But what about my critical intellect? Rinpoche. First, you must be critical. Very much so. You must examine and analyze your guru. You must examine and analyze your path. You must examine and analyze the lineage. That is very important. Through examining and analyzing, critical mind should come to some trust, some faith. Critical mind needs a sense of limitation, which is based on a certain trust and faith. Buddha said that if you let your critical mind go on forever, then it might lead you to paranoia. At the same time, this doesn't mean that you cannot ask questions. It means that your critical mind becomes an inquisitive mind. The inquisitive mind is very much emphasized by Buddha. When your critical mind has come to certain conclusions of trust and confidence in Vajrayana, that becomes faith. Then you can continue your journey with that faith. You can still have a lot of questions and challenges. There is no problem there. The basic point is that we should not lose this faith in the inconceivable truth. Question. Faith has always been very difficult for me. How can I work with that? Rinpoche. Fundamentally speaking, in order to awaken oneself in the state of realization, we need determination. We need willingness. We need the faith or trust in our own heart, in the path, and in realization. Without that faith, it's not going to take place, no matter how hard we try. It's like people who talk about going to Nepal for 20 years but don't really make up their minds to go. They never get there. Maybe they say they want to go because everyone is talking about going, or everyone has been there or something, but they are not really determined to go.
That was pretty awesome, pretty information packed, and very Vajrayana. So again, I ask you to contextualize yourself in this group. I grew up around Vajrayana Buddhism, and so I present this group and try to give advice in a different way because I've seen so many people rely on faith, and just like the questions sort of proved my point. Questions were both about lack of faith, and I don't think there's any amount of chapters in a book that can give a person faith. I think the modern people have been abused a lot, really, in this culture, and so faith is not something that comes easy, and that's why I rely heavily on scientific stuff and logic and using primary sources and inquiry discussions, testimonies from our own experiences, this kind of stuff, and building our faith in a modern way. I think is okay. And if you're inclined, like me, I was very traditional. I was all in. I didn't doubt my teacher at all. And I think there's something to that. But please, I encourage you to go with your true heart on that. So, any other comments, questions, anything today? That's right, Nick. Boy can sing, huh? Yeah, so I think that really and ultimately whoever you choose to be your guide, I like the way he was comparing it to a pilot or someone guiding like a ferryman. To me that's much less authoritarian, and yeah, but whoever that may be for you, we were just talking about 12 hours ago. I was just saying how it's stay in your own lab, don't analyze other people, but when it comes to teachers, you're perfectly allowed to analyze them. And we're just talking about that, which is pretty cool. There's always this synchronicity. For me, picking a teacher, I just had the teachers around me, and I was attracted more towards the natural speakers. So it was nice that Ponlop Rinpoche also mentioned that they don't need cue cards; they can just explain what they're teaching from their own experience or realization. Yeah, and I like to also always understand we're always students and teachers at the same time. Sometimes we get down on ourselves. We say, "Oh, I could never be a teacher," but we really do get put, even if it's just with our dogs or something. We end up always in that teacher role somehow to some degree. And I feel like those of us who are normalizing, multiple lifetimes because not as a belief, but normalize talking about it, and if you have glimpses of it and things like that, not to deny that in yourself, but considering multiple lives, uh, whether you're to what degree your fame is and all this stuff, I feel like really if you're able to zoom out, then you can see it's pretty insignificant. But that doesn't matter so much as a wonderful chapter there on that guru disciple relationship. All right. Any last words before we go then today? Oh, good. All right. Yeah. Thank you too for everybody for coming together. It's nice as always. Okay. Well, we'll do a dedication merit then. And thanks again, Yeshe, for the reading. Great. So, do the silent sit and the gathering together of all these yogis and the reading of this text, whatever benefit, merit, or realization that we have, there are beings in this very presence, and we dedicate that without exception. Gewa Magen Dodo Gunlan. Gewa Magen Dodo Gunlan. Gewa Magen Dodo Gunlan. And deep bow to you, and I hope you have a beautiful rest. Everything going good for you, getting everything you need. Yeah, see you.